And what do you think of his first 76 days in office?
Well, I don't want to really evaluate that, but I can tell you, I'm sure there's a lot of things that he does that is good, and but when I feel that we're going backwards, if it is the after-school programs, I will let my voice be heard. If it is about the environment and someone wanting to bring coal mines back, I said to myself, well, okay, then maybe next he's going to want to bring back Blockbuster or Buggies and Horses. Having been governor and having really spent a lot of time with scientists that have made it very clear that what pollution does to people. Forget about the global warming issue for a second, because there's people that are deniers and others, but there's one thing we definitely know: pollution kills people.
Looking back on that, you think could have helped him have a better first 100 days or a more effective first 100 days, being a political outsider?
No, because every circumstance is different, but I mean, I just know that to me the most important thing was to understand that people sent me to Sacramento to bring Democrats and Republicans together because they were incapable of working together. And that was one of the big problems California had at that time. And so I realized that, and I tried to do it first by using my power of influence over the people. Then I tried, with it's my way or the highway, and all of those different things. But eventually, all of this worked the first year when you have your honeymoon. Of course, it didn't work for Trump, but I mean the honeymoon. But I mean, it worked the first year, but the second year I stumbled. When we had then the election, special election, and all this stuff. And that's when I realized that that's not the right way. And I shifted gears. People themselves should not get stuck in ideological corners, but it's now a lot of me versus them, and everyone that thinks different is the enemy, and people are not allowed to speak anymore if you believe in something different. I mean, it's crazy now. It's getting so partisan, and the danger is that nothing gets done. And I think that. And then with that foreign influence now, this last elections, I mean, this goes back kind of like Washington was talking about in his farewell address. If you think about it, he never saw himself as a party man, and he just didn't like the idea of parties kind of fighting amongst each other. He was worried about that, actually. He felt that they should be reconciliating and just kind of bringing parties together. It was much more for that. He even said that the danger is that they get so vulnerable because of the fighting that eventually some outside influence can have an effect on politics in America. And this is exactly what has happened just now, apparently.
Or what do you think about what he's doing to the party's brand?
I became a Republican because of Nixon and Reagan. And then as I studied and learned a little bit more the history, Lincoln and Teddy Roosevelt. I mean, these were kind of like, my heroes. And so I'm a Lincoln, Teddy Roosevelt, Reagan kind of a Republican. And I think that is the true Republican when they fought against slavery, when Republicans voted overwhelmingly for freeing the slaves and for becoming citizens of the United States.
What do you think it would look like right now if Governor Kasich was president, and do you hope he runs in 2020?
Kasich is an extraordinary guy, because he's a man of substance. He has worked in Washington, right. He has worked in local government, he has worked on a statewide level, so he has the experience and he can see things. He has a vision of how the pieces, you see, the key thing with politics is always, how do the pieces fit together? Because you can't just go for one thing and not understand what implications that have. It's like in the economy. This is you learn that very quickly of when you spend $1 here, what effect it has here. So it's the same thing in politics. So he understands all that. He also is a moderate.
Right.
So he's a tough Republican and a very fiscally conservative, but he is also at the same time loves, helping people. It's when Bush, remember, he talked about compassion, conservatism. That's what comes to my mind when I look at him. And of course, I've known him for a long time,
Right.
so I know the real guy.
So do you want him to run
He says,
2020?
I know he should run in 2020. Yes.